Trying to silence people is, in fact, a First Amendment violation. We have a right to petition the government for redress. And if it becomes public, we're looking at Matthew 18, verses 15 through 20. And they are, in fact, violating that process.
Okay, I am making this video to discuss two major updates regarding the reason I was arrested by 5 police officers at my front door and jailed several days ago. So obviously this was a big surprise to me. I had no clue what any of this was for, as I said in my last video, and I made that video as an update to give you guys transparency. Obviously my mugshot is on the internet. I've never been arrested before. I have a clean criminal record, and I think the public deserves to know why, right? That is something that you would think would be deserved, the freedom of speech. That's why it was quite surprising to me that after making that video, I got not only this investigative report related to the tax evasion, the alleged tax evasion, but also a gag order to stop talking about it, which you would think would violate my First Amendment right. I had no clue that existed. I didn't know what a gag order was, so I did some research. Basically, it would say that
absolutely,
if this goes through, which I have court for on Monday, not even the tax evasion thing, the gag order, if this were to go through on Monday, I would not be able to say anything at all about this case. No videos, no updates. I cannot talk about it. So I want to talk about this gag order because it's very interesting. Not as interesting as this report, which we're about to talk about too. So I want to make this video out of transparency to show you guys what is going on in the government, what they're allowed to do anyways, you know, factually what is going on in my life. This is just an update for the thing they're trying to put me in prison for. So in this gag order, they list my influence. I have 20 million combined followers. It says the gag order would prohibit me from making any pretrial extrajudicial statement via any form of social media platform. So they show all my social media posts, me saying I'm going to take the killdozer to court. They show my Instagram posts. They show my story posts. They show just me covering what happened. And then, you know, it's referencing the YouTube video I made that got over 6 million views. And obviously that made it to the top pretty quick because a lot of people saw how absurd the case was and people up there heard about it from those people. It says, based upon the foregoing, the state moves this court to enter a gag order against the defendant, applicable to any and all of his social media platforms, prohibiting him from commenting on the case or its fact pattern in any fashion, and from attempting to monetize the prosecution in any form. His actions threaten the ability of the state to prosecute the case fairly and without outside influence, and potentially threaten the safety of those involved in the prosecution. So number one, I don't think anyone here is a threat. I think people are just confused and a little angry. People are rightfully angry. If they came to my door for something this absurd, they're not stopping there. They've shown what they are willing to do. And what I'm about to reveal in this gets a lot more dirty. Then, of course, they emphasize that they would prohibit me from attempting to monetize the case in any form. So on this page, they have a screenshot of my merch for sale. You know what my merch has on it, which thank you guys for buying it. That actually, my legal fees are still more than what's sold in merch. But you know what my merch has on it is the public indictment page that they posted when someone gets arrested. Anybody can access this. It was already public. All I did was draw a lot more attention to it. So that has, you know, it's public. It has names on it, and mostly Department of Revenue is responsible.
And that's what they're afraid of, folks. They're afraid of all the attention to their idiocy. This is just blatant attack against somebody that has certain rights like everybody else, and they're in fact violating them. And he's going to talk about the underhanded ways in which they're doing it as well.
For this. So the fact that my First Amendment right is being tampered with is insane. Like, that's actually insane. I did not know that a gag order was possible. And so I have court for that on Monday before this whole thing. That just shows how much this whole thing is going to blow up. So I don't know if they poked the wrong hornet's nest, or everybody was assuming they might try to make an example out of me. Like, I would assume they knew that like I'm going to make content on this. So I think the reason they want me to stop talking about all this is that my influence is so big. They state all my followers and everything and my influence on social media that I could, like, basically everyone could side with me and I could bias the jury and it wouldn't make a fair trial for me against the government, for me against the state government. It wouldn't be fair. It wouldn't be fair for them. So they want me to.
Yeah, he's not a small channel like me with just a few thousand subs. He's got 20 million overall. YouTube with 10.2 million, and then another 10 million on other platforms. So they're trying to silence big dogs, discourage the other guys. And that's why I say it's important. Don't believe me. Don't believe the neighbor. Don't believe the government. And for crying out loud, don't believe your mother. Do your research so you know. And that's what impresses me about Whistling Dixie here. Go check him out. He does his research. He got that gag order, didn't know what a gag order was, so he looked it up and did some research.
To stop talking about it. Now, I agree. It's not fair for anyone to threaten anyone. Please don't threaten anyone, but it's totally okay. You have the freedom of speech as well to ask the Department of Revenue why they are doing this. So it is cool. I'm legally allowed to talk about all this until Monday, if that were to go through, which is going to be quite difficult considering I very much so value my First Amendment right. So that was my First Amendment right. And right here, I have a many-page long investigative report on all the details of this case. Now, I can't say I was too surprised when I read this because a lot of it made sense, but I did laugh when I was reading it because it gets a lot more absurd. As we know, this is over $27,000 in sales tax on my one singular Ferrari F8, which burned down. It doesn't exist anymore. It's in this cube. And I guess they got an anonymous tip several years ago that I was registering vehicles in Montana and those vehicles were in Tennessee. So they put together this massive case and they contacted 13 people mostly from the state. They contacted the dealership I bought the Ferrari from. They contacted the shop who replaced the exhaust on the Ferrari. But most importantly, they contacted my accountant. She pays my federal taxes, my income taxes, and everything else. She handles my finances. She handles my cars, my payments. And she's a good.
And this is the underhanded shit that they will do. Pay attention, folks.
Accountant, because when they called her, a special agent, I guess, from the state called my accountant and they asked her all these questions. They said, do you give Cody financial advice? They asked some questions about Montana LLCs and they were kind of digging. It says in the document, she called them back and asked if there was a problem with Detweiler's Montana registrations. She asked if we should move all of the Montana assets to Tennessee. In other words, register them in Tennessee and pay the sales tax. The accountant was advised not to speak to Detweiler about the conversation and to leave assets as they were until the investigation was complete. That was a year ago. Instead of
that, folks, is conspiracy. He went around to 13 people other than this whistling diesel guy, Mr. Detweiler, and tried to convince them behind his back on things that were unethical.
Of saying that I owed any tax or sending a bill or a letter or a notification or notice or telling my accountant that she should talk to me and let's get this taken care of so that we can be in compliance with the law. They asked that I not be informed about it. I don't know about you guys, and this isn't me defending myself, but that is wild. So they wanted me to not know. That just shows me that this was not about the money. This was never about the money. This was not about $27,000. This was about sending a message. So I don't know if they targeted this and like chose me on purpose because they thought it would get like the word out that, oh, they're collecting tax. You better move your registrations to Tennessee. I think they picked the wrong guy. For that, because even though it was public when it happened, it's going to be a lot more public now. I find it so wild that instead of informing me of how to be compliant over a year ago and collecting the tax, they decided to do all of this.
Which is the unethical part. Their ethics say that they're supposed to give the man notice. First duty in law is legal notice. And they conspired with 13 people not to do so.
Arrest me and take me to jail and progress this whole case, which I looked up the punishment for. You know what some of the max punishment for tax evasion on this is? 1 to 6 years in prison. Let me ask you guys a question for the viewers watching this. I don't know code A27-610C9324A98764 of the tax code. I don't, frankly. I take the advice of the people around me and maybe business advisors and people who I trust and friends who I talk to, and I put together the best plan that I think is to run a business. And I think everybody in the United States wants to file their taxes appropriately. Like everybody knows, okay, pay your taxes.
And I'll remind you that there are certain taxes, income tax, that is not actually defined and it's voluntary. So these other taxes, import taxes, excise taxes and stuff, those you have to be diligent on and learn how they operate so you can conduct your affairs appropriately and don't get falsely accused.
Or you're going to get arrested. That's obvious. But when there's no information or education provided on it, and you are simply, your first move is to build a case and arrest those people, the trust in the government is lost. It is 100% lost. If they stopped with, like, if they did this to me, they're not stopping with me. This is going to happen to other people. This just shows what they will do. These two.
Just like back in the blue until it happens to you. Just keep doing what you do until it happens to you.
Things. This is what I wanted to talk about. If you get anything out of this video, it is that they say I owed tax, but they would not tell me, and they would not tell me what I owed, and they would not educate me on what was owed or inform me about it. And they also want to take away, tamper with, I guess, my First Amendment right.
And that's absolutely correct. It is tampering. It is tampering with the witness, threats, duress, and coercion. Like I said, that extortion, if he doesn't follow the gag order, they're going to throw him in jail. You either shut up about it or we're putting you in jail. That's extortion. That's tampering with the witness, putting fear in him under threats, duress, and coercion.
That's wild. And just so you guys know, if you owe money to the IRS, they send you a letter. They say, hey, you owe this amount. You have this amount of time to pay it. Thank you.
And that's the duty of law that I was talking about. They have to give you legal notice. They conspired with 13 people not to. That itself is a felony. And then to try to enforce imprisonment or fines, fees, penalties, and all that, go after this man, that's sedition and treason by government officials.
really appreciate that. And I get mail at my address, which is exactly why I was so confused about all of this. I was like, if, God forsaken, like I got super sick and couldn't check my mail or something happened, I'm on a long vacation, I was like, if I owe tax and I don't know about it or I did something wrong, I will get a letter or a notification and they're going to tell me and I can be in compliance. I know this, right? Yeah, I was very surprised. I did not find any.
Or they would work with his business associates on the backside, communicating with him to do that. And again, in this case, conspired with 13 people behind his back not to inform him of it.
Need this information. I got these documents like a week and a half or 2 weeks now. No, it's been like minimum 2 weeks after this arrest that I got these documents to see all this. It reassured what I kind of thought, because I was like, I never got a notification. And I had heard something roundabout, like way through the telephone, of like this phone call to my accountant, but there was no information about it. It was really weird. I was like, was someone informed of this? And this makes so much sense of like, no one was allowed to contact me because they wanted to put together this case and like pin me for it. You know what I think it is? I think they started this whole mess to make a statement. And then when they realized that they messed up, they have this to shut me up. Because
Absolutely. Absolutely. Always doing everything they can to try to cover their ass and claim while they know exactly what the fuck they're doing.
they don't want people knowing about all this. What did they think would happen? Like, rightfully so, everyone's frustrated. Maybe I've said this already. I hate the fact that it looks like I'm defending myself, right? Because who wouldn't? Who wouldn't defend themselves against, you know, some sort of legal issue, right? I get it. I don't want to sound conceited in this. I'd rather not be making this video, frankly, though. I think most of the public thinks that if the government says they did something wrong on their taxes, they're going to get a notice or notification or a letter. Apparently, that's not always true. I'm not a tax expert. I take the advice of friends and family and people around me, and I try to do the best I can to have a good business and, you know, have.
And he made a very pertinent and important statement there. I'm not a tax agent. I don't know all this stuff. So I go to those that I have good faith in that they will do their job appropriately. And this IRS agent goes behind his back and uses 13 of his associates to not inform him. Again, like I said, that is conspiracy.
A good life. Oh yeah. Okay, this was interesting. They list all the people they talked to. One of the people they talked to also was like a lawyer I'd used years ago, like 5 years ago, 4 or 5. And he did like 2 documents for me. There's a statement in this, neither Detweiler nor an attorney representing him were interviewed in this case. So like they knew they could have found my attorney because my DeKalb County one with the jet ski thing, that was public. And he's the same attorney that did that. They could have easily found my attorney and talked to him and we could have amicably resolved this. But nope.
But again, that still doesn't dismiss the fact that they did, in fact, communicate with 13 other people in conspiring to keep it from you. So along with the fact that they didn't contact your attorney, which is the appropriate step, they again prove an element of conspiracy by not doing what they're supposed to do ethically, morally, and competence-wise when they're supposed to follow the U.S., the Constitution of the United States of America and the laws of the Constitution in the states. Simple.
They wanted to do it sneakily. They wanted to show up at my house and arrest me and put me in jail. They wanted to shut me up. And I think now everybody's realizing how much of a mistake this was. I think the people at the state want to collect sales tax and they probably wanted to send a message and they were like, what better person to use as an example than this guy that destroys Ferraris, which this was an accident, by the way. I just like to have fun. I'm a random Joe Schmo. As much as what I do looks crazy, there's a lot of times my bank account's still zero. I reinvest just enough to do what I want to do. My goal in life is experiences, not money. Even though I think it's amazing to have a cool car and a lot of cool things, those things end up destroyed because I have fun with them. Like what I want is an experience. I think they saw me as some sort of easy target. I guess maybe they haven't seen how we handle that. Oh, here's another interesting thing. They state in this document that I signed a 3-day removal affidavit, a paper saying I've removed the Ferrari from Tennessee in 3 days. And I did not remember doing that. When you buy a car at a dealership, you get a stack of papers bigger than this. It's like this. And they go, sign here, sign here, sign here. And there's like.
And that, folks, is one of the biggest problems, because even though the man is, quote, diligent in having good faith with the people that he deals with, the biggest problem with most people is that signature. It's not a matter of good faith with the people that you're dealing with so much as it is you know what's being written down and know what it is, comprehend it. Because when you go signing documents you haven't read and don't comprehend because they're just shoving them at you, that's when you get in trouble. The last time I was in jail, I walked out, they handed me the judge's discharge order, and I walked up to the counter and the lady immediately wanted me to sign a document. I said, no, thanks. She says, well, we can't let you out unless you sign. The document was a release paperwork listing all the property and everything. Most people would think that, yeah, you'd want to sign that so you can get your property back. But you don't understand the nature of the signature. See, the judge already gave a discharge order. So I just simply pulled it out of my back pocket and asked the lady across the counter if she was going to violate the judge's discharge order. I was out of there quicker than I've been out of there in 30 years. I assure you, the major problem is the signature and not comprehending the capacity in which you're signing or the document you're signing. Man up, people. Educate yourself.
$25 papers that you sign. So I don't know if that was mixed into there or something, but like my goal throughout everything I do in my business is to be squeaky clean. I want to be in compliance with the law. Like I wouldn't put all the work and effort and improvement and investments into my business if I was just going to risk it all for some stupid legal.
And that's the important thing he's got going for him. He has no ill will or ill intent. And that's one thing they failed to prove. Even if they do find that he transferred it to Tennessee, he didn't have any ill intent. He says, and I believe, that he's not a tax expert. He's not a business professional like most people think. He counts on the people around him to help him in good faith. And in good faith, he transferred it thinking he was following the law. In the meantime, he's one that's willing to man up and say, okay, if I owe the $27,000, that's no problem. Here you go. But they refuse to tell him so. So who's conspiring? Is it him trying to evade taxes? Or did he make a mistake and now the IRS is conspiring with other people behind his back to throw him in debtor's prison for a debt they won't quote?
Issue. You know, like my goal is to be in compliance. I don't want to cause problems. what I do looks crazy, but I try to be in compliance with everything I do. This whole case has just been wild. I really appreciate everyone's support, genuinely. I just did a podcast with Cameron Haynes about this yesterday, good friend of mine, and I went to Tucker Carlson's Christmas party. There's a lot of people that I really appreciate their support very, very much. Like, genuinely, thank you.
Yeah, I wonder if Tucker Carlson has anything to say on that. I'll have to go check that out. 20 million viewers, hitting people like Tucker Carlson. Used to be mainstream. Now he's got his own podcast and stuff. See, that's the way this is working out, and they're trying to silence people like that, folks. Don't let them do it. Support these kind of people. Get over to Whistling Diesel, show him your support, and listen to him. Like I said, don't believe him. Don't believe me. Don't believe the neighbor. Don't believe your government. Don't believe your mother, for crying out loud. Do your research so you know. Everybody's situation is a little bit different, and it's always better if you know, instead of just handing it over to somebody else. If you're bound by your words, then why do you depend on the words of somebody else so consistently?
Thank you so much. I did not expect the people coming out of the woodwork for this. This just feels so absurd for $27,000. Like, they did all that research. They put hundreds of hours of work into this, and I wasn't even notified of how to be in compliance. Thank you, everyone who's been buying the merch. I actually upgraded the quality because it's a little lower than what I would have liked. There's still that no tax if you don't want to pay the sales tax on that. I'll pay it, state of Tennessee.
See, that's how you trigger them. No tax on a tax evasion issue that they're having with him. Shove it right down his throat, Whistling Diesel. Love it. Good job.
Don't worry, I'll cover that. It won't be much though, because the prices are fairly cheap. So I really appreciate your support, guys. We're definitely going to have a lot of legal fees considering how long all this is probably going to go on. I thought if everybody else could leave, all the 10 million people watching, and we'll just leave the Department of Revenue a message for you guys. So I understand your goal is to collect sales tax. I get it. That's your job. My job is to talk about you collecting the sales tax in this case. So again, we're at a little bit of a stalemate. I would prefer to not make these videos. I'm just being transparent with the public because this is America. They deserve to know what's going on with me when they see my mugshot online, and they deserve to know what's going on in the government. So America is for the people, and the people are the ones in charge. I don't have anything against you guys personally. I haven't seen your faces. I'm sure you're great people, and I know your job is to collect tax, but what better way to collect tax than to educate people on how to be in compliance? The pissing match does not work. America was founded by real people that value and protect freedoms, and I'm one of those people. If we want to keep playing this game, game on. If we can have a meeting and talk about this and figure out a way to educate people on what your guys' goal is, game on as well. I would love to work together. But just as the same reason my mugshot was public when I was arrested with 5 cops at my door, the public deserves to know why. And that's why I've made this video. So thank you everyone for watching. Once again, I will give you updates regularly as I have them. If the updates stop coming, it may be related to the gag order, although I think that's not going to, for number one, I don't think it's going to happen. And number two, I think it will have little effect regardless. One other update that I want to give everybody, the court date for the gag order, do you want me to stop talking, is this Monday, December 8th at 9 a.m. at the Williamson Circuit Criminal Court. That's at 135 4th Avenue. That's a public courthouse. So I'm not telling you all to go there. I'm just letting you know I will be there to protect my First Amendment rights. Sad it had to come to that. Also, another thing, everyone, please, everything regarding this entire case, if you guys have a role in any form, whether that's physical, if you are showing up to the courthouse, or if there's any communication to anyone in the Department of Revenue, just please be respectful. It's okay, it's your human right to communicate and to show your voice. Just please be respectful. Don't threaten anyone. We want to be safe and mature adults and deliver a message properly. I know my followers are respectful.
Absolutely. That's what I plead about your First Amendment. It has to contain that element of diplomatic etiquette, knowing how to speak to each other and not at each other or using ad hominem character attacks.
Hold up, grab my soda, cause I told you I'm colder than hell. I ain't buying what you sell, it don't ring my bell. Unless it's got the smell, you know, like grape ape. We ain't talking vapes or the color of drapes. Or a gorilla in a cape is the good shit. Just one hit, you so lit, you fall into a bit, non-bit. What's fucking funny is you're a monkey, a high school flunky, hero and junkie, obliteration of the carnation. with gross castration, skewed citations by your intimation. Get real, young man, there's only one stand. You can't stand a suntan. How you gonna live on the land? Obliteration of the carnation with gross castration in skewed citations by your intimations. I'm a truth in rotation. You're a cheap imitation. Dark said hums, 808s make the ground shake. Cold as the grave, every word's a land quake. You're a flicker in a cipher, I'm the flame that won't fade. Step into the night where the shadows are made. What's fucking funny is you're a monkey, a high school flunky, hero and junkie. I'm gonna click another hit of this good shit, and I'm already it, so take over, it's been non-big.
Thank you for joining us at Personality Inventory Mockumentary Production.